Good morning, Wendy. How are you today?
I'm great, Linda. How are you doing?
I'm very good. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to connect with you. When we started thinking about different practitioners that we wanted to interview,
Hmm.
you came right up to the top of the list because it's your situation is so unique. So I wanted to share that with our SHAPE family of practitioners, but also with inquiring practitioners. We just in the last week added 6 new practitioners. So
It's
we are so
amazing.
excited, and we're bringing these interviews to practitioners' attention to help them understand what is possible. And
Hmm.
what I love, you're a practicing RN and
Correct.
you're in a ear, nose, and throat, an ENT
Hmm.
practice.
Hmm.
That is very different and very unique. You shared with me that you've been with Dr. Mason for 11 years and you've been
Hmm.
a shape practitioner now for 9 years. Tell me, how did that come about? How did you approach Dr. Mason and convince him that this was a smart decision?
Well, when I started with him, I didn't always work in the exam room with him, but through talking with patients and talking with him, he was always saying, "Okay, let's get rid of dairy. Let's try and get rid of gluten. Try that for a week or two. See if that doesn't decrease your inflammation enough that you feel better." And so many of his patients, of course, would call back and be like, "Well, what's left to eat?" And it was like,
Right.
there's a world of food out there,
Right.
and it doesn't all revolve around gluten and dairy, and the sooner you learn that, the better you'll feel. And a lot of those patients would come back and be like, wow, I do feel better. That did make a huge difference.
Great.
And I had heard about shape from my co-parent, and she had lost like 30 pounds, and another friend of hers had lost almost 100 pounds.
Oh,
And
great.
so I was like, wow, this just sounds wonderful. But the practitioner that they were going to was like 2 hours away. So I called you one evening and said, "Hey, I just want to know, is this something that, someone in my position could do and still, practice? Because I think it would be great to have someone a little bit closer to where these patients already are." And
Absolutely.
we probably talked for 2 hours that
Yes,
evening, and
I
it was
remember.
wonderful. And I was just like, oh my gosh, yeah, this is perfect. So that's how I started.
And so Dr. Mason, I know that he's a real believer. I know he has seen
Hmm.
over these 9 years that you've been using Shape in his practice. He has seen, miracles, and
Oh
I
yeah,
love
yeah.
that. Um, I know that typically he will exhaust his options
Arsenal.
before
Hmm.
he sends
Hmm.
them your way.
Hmm.
You did just share, though, that he is having people maybe try to avoid gluten or avoid dairy. So it
Right,
sounds like possibly he is sending people to you before he has to jump into surgery and
right,
more drastic measures. So
right. Exactly.
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And what do you think? What percent of people do you think? Um, I mean, we share all the time that food is
Hmm.
medicine. People
Right.
must change their relationship with food and embrace a healthier lifestyle. And unfortunately, so many people have no clue that food
Right.
is
Right.
medicine. They have
Right.
bought into all of the crazy ads that the food industry puts out there and all the misleading that they do with
Right.
their
Right.
packaging, saying that
Hmm.
things are healthy and they're not healthy. And,
Right.
Shape is all about eating real food that God has
Hmm.
put on this earth. We say if it has the ability to rot or spoil, that's what you should be eating,
That's
right?
what you should be eating.
Right. And Dr. Todd has his famous quote, God created food for human life, man created food for shelf life. So we say,
Hmm.
listen, if it has a shelf life, avoid it for
Right.
sure.
Right.
And I like to share this story about this crazy Twinkie. I met this Twinkie. I mean, years and years ago, I met this Twinkie that somebody was doing this experiment, and
Hmm.
when they started, the Twinkie was in its little cellophane and it was soft and squishy. And,
Yeah.
you could do this in the package. And I saw the Twinkie when it was 7 years old. and the
Mhm.
Twinkie was it was not squishy. It was
Mhm.
firm in the thing,
Right.
but it still looked perfectly fine. It didn't have any mold or
Right.
anything on it. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is scary. And then I heard like when the Twinkie was like 15 years old, the cellophane started breaking down on it, but the Twinkie still
The
looked fine. And I'm
Twinkie was
like,
still
oh
intact.
my gosh, this is so scary. But
Yeah.
people put that kind of stuff in their body all the time, all the time,
Mhm.
all the time. And then they wonder why their liver is so burdened. The
Right.
liver has all
Exactly.
these jobs and it's trying to detox. And when you're putting all these chemicals in your body, the body has a hard time. So that is wonderful that Dr. Mason is really honed in on inflammation is
Mhm.
causing so many of these symptoms. Um, you get a lot of referrals
Mhm.
from the people that are doing shape, and
Right.
they would never normally come to an ear, nose, and throat doctor. So
Right.
when they hear they're coming to do shape, it might be a little bit like I'm going to an ear, nose, and throat doctor. But so talk to me about them. Do they are they a little surprised by that or?
Well, yeah, a lot of them are shocked because they'll come in and they'll say, "I think I have an appointment with Dr. Mason," and it's like, "No, actually, your appointment's with me, and we'll sit down and we discuss the principles of shape that that you've got to eat God grown, healthy food, not the stuff that man has made, but the stuff that God has put here for us to eat. And that's the stuff that's going to get you better. And to, stay on the outer sections of the grocery store and leave that middle section alone because that is just a disaster area.
Isn't it the
And
truth?
to use the drops to help your body to detox and get better, to feel better, and to help get rid of that inflammation so that your liver has the chance to clean itself and get rid of things. And they're just surprised that this is going to make that big of a difference. A lot of
Right.
them are like, I don't know about that. But it's just made such a huge difference in so many people's lives.
Well, when we've got people understanding that food is medicine, that
Mm-hmm.
is a great step in the right direction. And then when we add the drops, we always say that our drops are our secret sauce.
Right,
And our secret weapon is urine testing. We're not a one size fits all program.
right,
And
right.
we build the program to the unique bio individual metabolic need of
Mm-hmm.
each individual that's doing it. And so we're testing urine, and most people don't really understand that. But we do a dia-screen 10, as
Right.
you're looking at urine all the time.
Oh,
All
yeah.
10 markers are really important. When we were in private practice, it'll be 7 years that Dr. Todd is retired from private practice, and now we just are working to support all of our practitioners.
Mm-hmm.
But urine was the end all be all. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it is so diagnostic. And when practitioners are not looking at urine, I just really think they're missing the mark. I really do.
Right,
And
right,
while all 10 markers are really important, 5 of those markers are telling us if the brain is getting a message that the body is starving while they're trying to adjust. We don't like to call Shape a diet or a weight loss program, but the
right,
word diet is the word that we use when we're describing what people are eating, right?
right.
So
Exactly.
there's a difference between the word diet and dieting.
Right,
But when
exactly.
people are dieting, more often than not, their brain is getting a message they're starving. So why
Mm-hmm.
do they gain the weight back and then some after they stop the program? Because they've been in starvation mode the whole time. And when they start adding food back, the brain says, I'm going to put that weight back on and I'm going to add a little bit of buffer just in case you pull that shenanigans on me again, right?
Exactly.
And so
Right,
that's what happens.
exactly.
That's what we see with all, typical
Mm-hmm.
diets and
Right.
why our program is so successful. Well, we're 14 years old as a national program. That
Mm-hmm.
is really shocking because Dr. Todd built the drops for me, menopausal,
Mm-hmm.
gaining weight, struggling, trying everything. Nothing was working. And I went to him and I'm like, you got to figure this out. And he did. And of course, we had all kinds of menopausal females that were also losing their minds over it. And so, right away, I mean, it started for that menopausal female, but right
Mm-hmm.
away, blood sugar was dropping and lipids were dropping and blood pressure was dropping and autoimmune symptoms were improving. And it was like, holy cow, like what is happening here? I didn't have any other problem, which I'm
Mm-hmm.
very grateful for. I didn't have underlying comorbidity, which a lot of our patients did. And we don't even, as we don't let our practitioners advertise Shape as a diet or a weight loss program, but rather a
Right.
total health restoration program.
Mm-hmm.
And testing urine is critical to people's
Exactly.
long-term success.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't really realize it, but when their practitioner says, you're spilling this in your urine and I'm adjusting your food intake by this, and sometimes they're like, what? I'm going to lose more weight because you're going to give me more food to eat? Yes.
Right. Yes, exactly. Exactly. So
Right.
I had a lady who came in and she didn't tell me she was diabetic, and so I
Oh,
did her urinalysis, and um, she walked back in the office, and I'm like, "Are you aware that you have diabetes?" And she said, "Oh yeah. I forgot to put that on the list." I was like, "Oh." I said, because you're spilling glucose like crazy,
right.
and that means that your blood sugar is out of control. And she said, yes. She goes, I'm trying to get healthier. I'm trying to do the right things. It's just not working out for me. And I said, okay, so let's come in. I want to see you weekly. Let's do the urinalysis. Let's start you on the drops. Let's see if we can't make things better.
Yeah.
And by the following week, she came in and her markers were better. She said her endocrinologist was thrilled. He was
Good.
like, I'm not sure what you're doing, but whatever it is, keep doing it because it's working.
Yeah.
And, so she did much better. She ended up losing weight and getting to the point where she could just take a tablet, as she said, every once in a while. She said, because I don't take it daily. She said, because sometimes it drops me too low. And
Absolutely.
I said, that's your prerogative. You need to do what keeps you healthy and keeps
Absolutely.
you off the floor, obviously. But yeah,
Right.
so those are some of the things that happen, and it's just like it's amazing to me all the changes that shape can make in someone's body.
Well, it's, when we're training our practitioners and they're saying, urine testing urine, and we're like, we're telling you, it is our secret sauce. It is
It
what
is.
makes our program so successful. And
Mm-hmm.
I know in our clinic, and I think you do as well, recommend periodic detox and cleanse. We all just got off of Fourth
Mm-hmm.
of July weekend, and probably most everybody splurged,
Right.
above and beyond. Those of us that eat clean normally, we had
Mm-hmm.
we had friends come to visit, and while our meals were clean, oh my goodness, we were having desserts and drinking wine. And
Yeah.
when they left, Todd and I looked at each other like, okay, we got to rein it back in. And just yesterday, we went out for a little pontoon ride on the lake, and I said to him, okay, it was Wednesday, and they left on Sunday morning, and I go, I have not had one bite of sugar since they left. And Todd goes, neither have I. And we're like, yes.
Amen.
So
Amen.
sugar is so addictive. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yes, it's yummy, and we have it for special occasions, but it can't be that every day, you
Right.
know, a bite of it here and there. Especially, people will think they'll be doing the program and they're doing really well, and they'll think, oh, if I could just have a bite of this, and then they'll have a bite, and then
Right.
they're still doing good. And then they have another bite of something and another bite. And the next
Mm-hmm.
thing you know, they're cheating all throughout the day with a bite of something that's not on the plan. And
Right.
then it throws them off. It throws them off
Right.
altogether, and the program's not working for them. Do you see that as well?
Absolutely. And it just amazes me. They'll be like, oh, my coworker keeps little candy kisses on her desk, and I just walk by and grab one. And I'm like, okay, so stop that. Cut yourself up an apple, cut yourself up, some clementines,
Yeah,
put those things, put some celery on your desk,
right.
anything to keep you busy, or take another route so you don't have to walk past the person with the Hershey Kisses on the end of
Right,
their desk.
right, for sure.
Exactly.
Yesterday, Todd and I, we we play cards. We always do the best of seven, rummy. And so we got a cup of frozen blueberries. And while we were playing cards yesterday, that was our little treat. We were eating
Yeah,
frozen blueberries. But
exactly.
it was sweet and it was satisfying, and it's a part
Hmm.
of eating clean. And
Right.
we love what it's doing for our overall health. So that was a
Yeah.
really good one. You had shared a story with me. Um, about Dr. Mason sending one of his female patients to you, and she came and her husband came with, and he was just radically against. Share that story, because
Exactly.
I just really think that it will help so many people understand the value of what this program can do.
So this poor lady had come in to see Dr. Mason, and she had congestion, and he did ear tubes on her, and he took her tonsils out, and took some polyps out, and
Oh,
put her on some
those are some
medication.
drastic measures.
Yes, those are big things, but she still wasn't getting better. She was still having the phlegm and congestion. So he said, well, he goes, I've really done everything I can do. Why don't you go see Wendy and see what can happen with that? So she came in to see me, and she brought her husband with her. And he walked in and he said, we eat perfectly healthy and we don't need this. He goes, and I'm going to give you 1 week to fix this. And I said,
One week.
well, I said, you actually just signed a certificate saying that you do at least 21 days, but no one's forcing you. No one said you
Right.
had to come and see me, but what we're trying to do is get your wife healthier. And that's our goal. So he goes, all right, 1 week. So a week later they come in and he's lost 10 pounds and he's ecstatic. He's like, I lost 10 pounds. And she said, well, I lost 5 and I do feel a little bit better. And I said, well, that's awesome. Let's meet again next week and see how we're doing. So he comes in the following week and he said, I had a rash on my leg for 21 years. And he goes, and all of a sudden it's gone. And I said, well, you didn't mention anything about a rash on your paperwork, or you didn't tell me you had any. He goes, I don't see what that had to do with you. And I said, well, obviously it had something to do with inflammation in your body, something you were putting in your body didn't like. And so now that you've stopped putting that in, that's gone away. And then the following week, the wife came in and she was a little anxious. And I'm like, what's wrong? And she says, well, he went on a business trip and he's going to be gone the entire week, but he forgot his portable CPAP. And when he comes back, he's so miserable and mean and just not a happy person. And I'm like, oh, all right. So the following week, he came in and I said, very timidly, so how are you doing? How was your business trip? He goes, it was great. He goes, I slept the best that I've slept in years. He goes, I don't even need CPAP anymore. And I was like, that's amazing. And by that time, her congestion had improved enough that she went back to Dr. Mason and said, I feel a ton better. I don't need anything else done. I don't need to take these medications over and over again. And so they do shape periodically. They come in, they get some more drops. They, revamp, go through the fast track and figure
Yeah.
out, okay, what have we added that we don't need? And let's get rid of that. And, it's just amazing. And then I had another lady who had liver disease, and she had finally reached stage 3, and she was seeing a doctor for possibly a liver transplant.
Oh
But he
gosh.
had told her the possibility of you getting the liver transplant is very low because you have AB negative blood. And it just doesn't happen. And so she had
Okay.
started following a doctor from California that talked about eating healthy and doing things better for yourself to make your liver last longer. And she heard about Shape from a friend, and she came in. And so 6 months into the program, she was due to have additional blood work. She would go and have blood work every 6 months. And so she had additional blood work, and she talked to the doctor. He called her and he said, oh, your lab results came back. And he goes, I don't know what you're doing, but you went from stage 3 to stage 1. And so essentially your liver is healthy. And she was like, that's amazing. She goes, do you want to know what I'm doing? And he said no, and hung up the phone. So she called me crying. She's like, he doesn't even want to know what I did. And I said,
Isn't
well,
that
because he's a transplant physician. He only makes money essentially by transplanting livers. And you took a
Absolutely.
liver away from him.
Absolutely. And as Dr. Todd says, you can't fix stupid.
Right,
How
right,
many times have SHAPE patients gone back to their primary and they've had to lower their medication or take them off their medication,
right,
and the primary care just doesn't give SHAPE the credit that it is due.
right,
And,
right, exactly.
it is what it is. We can't fix that. But we're all about helping people eat clean. We always, what
Right,
people say, well, can I do the program without the drops? Well, we're all for people eating clean. Yes, we
right,
want you to
exactly.
choose a healthier, diet. We
Right,
absolutely do. But when people add the drops, miracles really do happen. The drops help heal at the brain level. So it enhances the communication between the hypothalamus and the pituitary, and those
exactly.
two then talk to each other better and send clearer metabolic messages down to the body. The general public is not thinking about their hypothalamus or their pituitary. They
Right.
really don't know what the function of those are doing. It's our job to help them understand. And when when Dr. Todd developed the drops, I mean, he had at that point 30 years of clinical
Hmm.
experience
Hmm.
using homeopathy when he developed these drops. And so, he was on a mission to do this, to reach this goal and help with this problem. But it's helping all these other problems. And when you were talking about your patient's husband that had this rash, and
Hmm.
he would have never correlated that. I just have to share this story. We had a endocrinologist as a SHAPE practitioner. He has since long retired. Well, SHAPE is 14 years
Oh,
old, and I
right.
haven't, I think it's been maybe 8 years since he's even been in practice. But he had a patient come to him with these oozing pustules on his head.
Hmm.
And he was in the Chicago area, and he went to all these um, skin specialist dermatologists, and they
Hmm.
had tried everything. They had just tried everything, oral, topicals, everything. And so he comes to this endocrinologist and says, okay, I guess I have like some kind of cystic acne as an adult. Like, I don't,
Hmm.
so I'm, somebody said I needed to get my hormones checked. And the guy goes, well, something toxic is in your body and it's pushing out through the skin. So there's inflammation. And so the first thing I'm going to do is put you on this simple detox and cleanse, because I want to get your body functioning to the best of its ability. Like, every week that he came in, it was like better and better. And within 3 weeks, they were kind of scabbed over. And the guy was like, what's going on? And like at 3 months, his head was completely healed. And the last I had heard, he would come back for periodic, checkups and stuff.
Right,
And it
right.
was like 4 years out, and the guy still didn't have crazy oozing pustules. And he had
Hmm.
he had dealt with that for years.
Right.
And when he shared that story with us, Todd said, never in a million years would I have thought that I was developing a product that was going to heal oozing pustules, right?
Right,
I mean,
right.
but we don't understand and know how aggressive inflammation is and what it's going to do in each individual body. We've heard stories that you just can't believe of what inflammation does. Infertility.
Right.
We personally had 17 infertile couples, supposedly infertile couples, that became patients of Todd's. After we helped a few of them doing SHAPE, then infertile couples came to do SHAPE.
Came on purpose,
Right.
yes.
I mean, at first it was like, what? What? We're doing SHAPE and you're pregnant? Praise God. As Todd will always say, it's one thing when I help somebody heal from hemorrhoids. There's a certain
Hmm.
satisfaction in helping somebody heal their hemorrhoids and they don't have to suffer from it. But when you help somebody that has not been able to conceive, to be able
Amen.
to bring a healthy child into this world is such a wonderful blessing. Todd says it's a good day in
Amen.
practice when that happens. And in this day and age, there is so much infertility and there's so much inflammation. And, when we're working with these husbands and wives and we're getting that inflammation under control and we're healing the connection between the hypothalamus and the pituitary, and it's healing those endocrine messages, it's working. It's working. So, I just love that. I know that you've just got, especially because you're in the medical world,
Right,
you see a
right.
lot of aggressive medical situations and you see lots of healing there. I'm thrilled that you have your patients come back and do periodic detox and cleanse. We say all the time, Wendy, and I think that you're telling your patients the same thing. Shape is not meant to be a prison sentence. We have
Amen.
3 phases. In the cleanse phase, we're very methodical. We
Mhm.
have them eat a very tight anti-inflammatory diet until we can get their inflammatory symptoms under control and get their weight under
Right,
control. And then we get to that phase we call stabilize, and we start slowly, very slowly, start adding food back. And we
right.
pay close attention to what is that inflammatory reaction. For
Hmm.
me personally, um, when I was younger, I figured out that I was hypoglycemic. I really don't even think that I'm that anymore. Since Shape has been in my life, I just don't even have issues with that anymore.
Hmm.
But I figured out that was an issue for me, and that I had to eat protein in the morning. And
Right.
if I didn't eat protein in the morning, my I would be a crybaby and I couldn't think, and it was just crazy. But I would run out of the house um, with a bagel, and that's when I'm like, during the week I get shaky and I get funky, but on the weekend I would cook for myself and I would make eggs and bacon and whatever, and then I would feel better on the weekends. I kind of thought I was allergic to working, but I figured out that wasn't it. But cheese was a bit to keep my blood sugar up. I ate a ton of cheese. And I'd wake up in the morning with a flat stomach and I'd eat and I would be bloated. And I'm like, what is going on? I thought it was dairy for a
Hmm.
while. But when I did Shape Now, my journey started 15 years ago when Todd, first developed the drops. The first thing I wanted to add back when I got to the stabilized phase was cheese.
Right.
And and now we do have some goat and sheep cheese is allowed in our program. But when we first started, it wasn't there. And as we say, Shape is a living, breathing, ever-changing program. The longer it is a national program and the more we're using it, the more we learn and the more we adjust our program. And so all during Shape, I had flat stomach. And as soon as I added that cheese back, well, I figured out when I added the yellow or orange cheese, I got
Right.
bloated. When I added white cheese, I didn't get bloated. So we figured
Mhm.
out the coloring was my problem. So to this very day, we don't ever have yellow or orange cheeses in our home. We only have white cheeses in our home. And I don't have that problem. So, what is going to cause inflammation for one person is not for another.
Right.
So, as we slowly start adding things back, we're paying close attention. And more often than not, that food friend is causing the problem.
Right.
And we
Right.
have to help them find that lifestyle that they're going to be satisfied with. They're not feeling deprived. They don't want to kill somebody because they're not getting a little wiggle room in it.
Yeah.
We're keeping inflammation controlled and we're keeping their weight controlled. So I love that you're doing those periodics because we are going to stray. We are human. We are going
Yeah.
to stray. And life is all about the gathering, right? And the
Amen.
food that goes with the gathering. Well, Wendy, it is just, it's so wonderful. I've loved getting to know you over these years. That's one of our favorite things is getting to know our shape practitioners.
Like,
What I love about you, and secretly this was something that I loved, but it never, became a big part of my life. You ride on your husband's Harley and you have your own motorcycle. I
right.
never had my own, and I never wanted my spouses to I was previously married before Dr. Todd, and my first spouse was a reckless thing, and I never wanted him to have a motorcycle. And
Right.
and Todd kind of toyed with it, and I'm like, ooh. I don't think we should put you on a motorcycle, But tell me about, your hobby.
So Scott, I met Scott actually through the practice. He was a patient of Dr. Mason's, and I
Okay.
happened to put him in a room one day, and he had some problems with his finger, and I couldn't get a pulse or an oxygen concentration on it. So we started talking about inflammation and different things, and I checked all of his other fingers, and everything was fine. And I said, "Well, you must have broken that finger," and he goes, "No, I don't think I ever did." And so long story short, he was talking about another injury that he had and that he did it on his bike. And I was like, "Oh, great. What kind of bike?" And he looked at me kind of like I was crazy and pointed to his shirt and said, "A Harley." And I said, "Oh, you can get Harley shirts at Goodwill, whatever." And so he pulled out the picture of his bike and it was like, "Oh," I said, "that is beautiful. I'd love to ride on that one day." And that was it. I just walked away thinking, okay, that was a great conversation. Put him in a room, and when he left his phone number. And
Oh,
so by that December actually 26th, I was on the back of that motorcycle
that's great.
riding,
That's
and
great.
so we have been on it ever since. We just love it. It's so freeing. You're out there with the wind and essentially the pavement below you, and that's it, and you're
That's what
just
I
going.
love.
Yeah, so it's
Well,
it's
and
it's so much fun.
what a good way to, take a break from helping sick people get well.
Yeah.
You're all about helping people heal from the inside out and restoring their health back to where they never should have left in the first place. And it's
Yep.
intense working with sick people all the time. We've been at
It
it
is.
over 4 decades, and it's intense. And
Yeah.
so it's nice for us to have a little hobby that we can, clear our mind of
Hmm.
illness and people
Hmm.
struggling and just be carefree. So I love that. I just want to thank you for your time today, Wendy. We love you. It's just been a pleasure working
Oh,
with
well,
you
and
over these 9 years.
I want to thank you and Dr. Todd because this program has just been amazing. It's so amazing to see people heal and get better and
Yeah,
understand that what they're doing to themselves, not on purpose, mind you, but just because, like you said, they've been misled by advertising, that they can be better. That they don't have to be sickly. They don't have to have sore, achy body parts
right,
and be miserable and can't climb the stairs and do other things.
right. Well, we love you, and I want to thank you for sharing, those patient testimonies, because that's what's going to make a difference when people really hear other people's stories, and then they'll think, maybe that can happen for me too. So you're
Right.
awesome. I love you. Have a
Thank
wonderful rest
you.
of your summer, and we'll catch up soon.
Okay, you take
Okay.
care. Have great fun
Bye.
on the kayak. Alrighty,
Okay,
bye bye.
thanks.